Hey, all you literary legends and luminaries. I'm Julie, and welcome to another episode of Booksmart. Today's book is all about animals, and you know how much I adore animals. It's How to Be a Good Creature by Sy Montgomery. It's a memoir in 13 animals. First of all, I need to commend the title and the cover. How to Be a Good Creature. How charming is that? And that it's animals that are teaching us how to be a good creature, not some self-help book. And the animals are just adorable. They're like fairy tale pictures, yet not juvenile in a kid's book sort of way. I also like the book size of the book. It's more square than your average memoir. Just recently, I released my animal memoir, Riding in Cars with Dogs, and I told pieces of my life story through my love of animals. My animal stories were limited to family pets and stuffed animals. Sy Montgomery's life work is all about animals. She's traveled to some of the Earth's most remote places and studied everything from tigers to spiders. She integrates this passionate work of hers into her home life through her pets. The book is divided into 10 chapters filled with those 13 animals the subtitle promises. Her memoir is chronologically organized with darling drawings to introduce each of her animals. Montgomery begins her story with her childhood dog, Molly, a Scottie. Through Molly, we learn how Montgomery's love of animals was born, how she preferred animals to people. So relatable, as I was the same way. The next chapter is about 3 emus, bald throat, black head, and knackered leg. This is where we learn of her career choice as she's in the Australian outback watching these birds. Montgomery has this eloquent writing style that is both poetic and realistic, like if John Steinbeck and Maya Angelou kind of morphed into one writer. I marked so many pages in this short book, but let me read you this brief paragraph, how Montgomery captures one of these birds and the effect it had on her. I, too, looked to Blackhead for guidance. If I could catch his eye with a glance, I'd try to assess whether he was happy with me following everyone or not. In a sense, I was asking his permission to follow, and yet in another way, by acknowledging him as the leader of the group, I made him my leader, too. Sometimes he would look me directly in the eye and hold my gaze. Though in dirty clothes, my uncombed hair matting like the fur on a stray dog, when bathed in the sight of this giant alien flightless bird, I felt beautiful for the first time in my life. This is what Montgomery does throughout the book. She shows us how animals make us feel, what we learn from these animals, and how our relationships with animals fulfill us in ways nothing else can. Christopher Hogwood is up next. He's a pig, if you didn't catch the hint in his name. I giggled through most of this chapter. Christopher Hogwood has spa days thanks to girls in the neighborhood. Just delightful. The next chapter I struggled with, and I almost skipped it. And I never do that. It's about Clarabelle, a tarantula that's found a home in a plant in their room while Montgomery is researching other spiders in French Guiana. I have a fear of spiders. It used to be so much worse, but I still hate them and they scare me. Montgomery does a beautiful job at writing about spiders to show that they're anything but scary, but still. Right after I read this chapter, I ran an errand. So when I opened my garage door, this tiny spider floated down from the garage door and landed on the back window of my car. I felt like I was being tested. I have a convertible, so I grappled with what to do about this spider on my back window. Where would it end up when I push the button to open the top and then, it kind of folds down like a transformer? I ended up smashing it with a fly swatter. Now, I know that sounds bad, but I hesitated and thought it through. So even though I killed it, I felt a little bad about killing it after reading Sy Montgomery's book. I found myself cringing more about Montgomery's description of her house, how she has all these little webs in the corners of her floors because she never vacuums, webs where spiders can live unbothered. I can't fathom the not vacuuming part more than the spider part. But I have to read to you how Montgomery ends this chapter because it is so beautiful and so very true, and it just so happens to be in the infamous spider chapter, which is really rather odd. Now, thanks to Clarabelle, even the most ordinary corners of our home were freshly enchanted. The world, I realized, brimmed even fuller with life than I had suspected, rich with the souls of tiny creatures who may love their lives as much as we love ours. Oh, I just adore that. I am convinced that every living creature really are just like little humans. Then Montgomery has a short chapter about a weasel. Then Tess finally gets her own chapter. Tess was introduced in Christopher Hogwood's chapter. Tess is a border collie, and Montgomery paints this beautiful picture of life with a dog, which I'll let you read for yourself. But I do want to read the part when Montgomery describes the aging of our beloved pets. I'm going to try not to cry when I read this to you because I cried the first time I read it, and then the second time when I went back through to find parts to read for this. So my apologies if I get teary-eyed one more time because it's this really, really touching chapter. Deaf and going blind, she could no longer play frisbee. The ball held no interest. My heart ached, and at first I thought it ached for her. Surely, I thought, she must miss our hikes, our hours of play, racing across the field to catch the ball and the frisbee. I was wrong. The heartache was my own. I was the one who longed for those younger, stronger days, for the magic of her more than human gifts of hearing frequencies I could not detect, seeing with surety in the dark. I missed traveling in the slipstream of her superpowers. I was sad, but Tess was not. One look at her showed she was happy. Her tail wagged, her smile, her ears, her composure, all radiated contentment. Tess didn't feel like chasing or leaping. Life was still rich and interesting, redolent with scent, and full of tasty treats in the comfort of being with those she loved. She accepted that now for some reason. The world had gone largely dark and quiet, but she wasn't worried. Clearly she understood that somehow we humans could navigate this black and soundless world for her. Tess still enjoyed going outside even at night. I used to love how she would run so far away for me to catch the joy. Now I rejoice that we stayed so close together. Tess could follow my heat and my scent at first. Later we remained touching at all times. I was honored after our years together to receive the gift of her graceful, trusting reliance on me, as I had once relied on her to navigate through the dark. Never before had anyone relied on me so completely. Never before had anyone loved me more deeply, and never before had I experienced grace so profound. Whew, that's a lot, but it's so beautiful and it's so wonderful that she captures that. And isn't that what all of us dog lovers and cat lovers and any pet owners feel as we watch our little guys age? The next chapter is about Matchie's tree kangaroo. The first part of this chapter was difficult to read because Montgomery lost both Chris and Tess and how she felt about those losses, but then the two kangaroos turn it all around. It's a precious chapter. And since I think you should read the book, I'm not going to give you any spoilers. You'll have to read it yourself. Sally and Thurber, both border collies, each get their own chapter, and in between them is Octavia, an octopus, an incredibly touching story. And then after all the chapters, you get these delightful pages of all the creatures that Montgomery wrote about. And even though the subtitle is A Memoir on 13 Animals, this is anything but a typical memoir. My book was a typical memoir. What Montgomery has done is blend the science of animals and show her expertise and weaves this animal knowledge into the story seamlessly by writing about the impact these creatures had on her life. Her stories are revealed through these animals. You're not going to get lengthy details about what Montgomery goes through. She only scratches the surface of her own life. In other memoirs, I would usually say that it's not developed enough for me, or I needed more explanation, or it didn't all come together. In How to Be a Good Creature, the lack of development of some of the crises in Montgomery's life really are irrelevant. Montgomery stays focused on the animal that is the star of the chapter while also focusing on her theme, which is her title, How to Be a Good Creature. What lesson does the animal teach her? And as the story progresses, Montgomery shares with us how animals still have a lot left to teach her. And she's going to continue to seek out and soak up all that they teach her. It's simply marvelous how it all came together. How to Be a Good Creature is one of those unique books that impact you so much and leaves you inspired and uplifted and more knowledgeable than you were before you started reading it. You'll learn a thing or two about animals while also feeling the magic of these animals, or any animal for that matter, that it will make you want to hug your pet and take them to do their favorite thing. You'll reflect on the animals that you've lost and what they gave you, what you learned from them. How to Be a Good Creature is so relevant right now too, when everyone hates everyone else and we're just being mean to each other all the time. The book reminds us how to be a good creature. And when the people around us maybe aren't behaving the best, we can turn to animals for guidance, that they can teach us a thing or two on how to navigate this tumultuous human world. This is one of those books that would make a fabulous just because gift. And maybe not just for the animal lover or the book lover. Anyone wanting to be a good creature right now should read it. I do believe I have a little kitty pounding at my door who wants to go outside and play, so I need to end this episode. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Booksmart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.